Cameraman down on the road again. I'm in Owings, South Carolina. They're having Frontier Days here today, so come on in and enjoy the festivities and enjoy the music.
Well, you know I can be found sitting home all alone. If you can't come around, then please telephone. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. Well, baby, if I made you mad, something that I might have said, please let's forget the past. The future looks bright ahead. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love, baby, it's to you I'm thinking of. Well, don't stop thinking of me, don't make me feel this way. Come on over here and love me, you know I want you to say, don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love, baby, it's to you I'm thinking of. Let us say I do, but then you know you'll have me, and I know that I'll have you. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love, baby, it's to you I'm thinking of. Ooh, yeah.
We got Robert Perry here with his family. What's our pig's name today? Huh? Christmas dinner. We got Christmas dinner here today. Thank you, Robert.
Good morning. Good morning.
We got the parade coming now. Robert Perry with his pig named Christmas dinner.
Maybe it's not time for him to shoot. I think he shot every hour on the hour.
Good job, girl. Yay. Good job. Yes. Where's our place?
Plymouth.
47 Plymouth?
Yes, it sat in the barn down at Kershaw for 42 years.
This one's set in the barn down in Kershaw for 42 years.
Welcome to Pioneer Day. This is the Culbertson Backcountry Settlement in Gray Court, South Carolina. The Gray Court Owings Historical Society sponsors Pioneer Day. This is our 8th annual Pioneer Day. And we moved all these buildings here to preserve them. They're all from this area, and we will tell you about those as we go along. This is the Gray Nesbitt cabin. It came from Durbin Creek, about 5 miles east of here. And we moved it here, log by log, and the fireplace is exactly as it stood over there. It has 2 fireplaces, and we are so happy to have preserved it here at the Backcountry Settlement. This is Hannah Powell. She's a member of a family with 8 children, and they're all very talented. And she comes up and does our spinning, and she's carding right now. And she'll be spinning. And this is your brother. What's his name? Isaac. So you can demonstrate a little bit. He's filming what we're doing. You want to tell him what you're doing?
I'm carding, which is lining up the fibers so I can spin them. And also getting some knots out.
She's carding to clean. Are you using cotton or wool? Wool. This is wool. And then she'll spin it on her spinning wheel. We brought this loom from West Virginia. It's from the 1700s, and we've set it up and we weave on it. And this is how they did it in the early days. They didn't have Walmart to buy clothes. They would grow the cotton or shear the sheep. They would card it, spin it, and then weave it into cloth, then make their clothes. This is Nancy Roberts. She is weaving, and she is an expert at weaving and has studied all over the world, and we're very fortunate to have her come and demonstrate weaving for us. Nancy, you want to tell him a little bit about what you're doing?
I'm working on a floor loom. It's a jack where it raises the harnesses for the pattern. I'm doing just a simple plain weave, which goes over one thread under the next thread, creating a overall pattern. And I'm making placemats. And I mainly do something very simple because the children sit in my lap and I don't have to pay attention to the pattern.
Right. Well, we so appreciate your coming. This is really special. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is a piece of quilting that I just want to show the applique where it's been dyed, and this is called applique, like the Baltimore quilts. A lot of that technique is used, and then it's just hand quilted, and I just wanted to share that with you today. You can see the difference. You can see the quilting. I'm almost through, and I do it in my lap, so it's going to be a piece.
It's beautiful. Thank you. This is the Gray Nesbitt cabin, and we moved this cabin. We had someone move it for us, log by log, and the chimney exactly as it had been over there, about 5 miles east of here on Durbin Creek. This chimney has a petroglyph in it. We've had an archaeologist look at it, Tommy Charles, and he says this is a petroglyph, an ancient carving that was probably down by the river, and they included it in their chimney.
Hi there.
This is a rabbit gum. I used to check the rabbit boxes with my daddy. It's for catching rabbits. Early on it started in a gum tree, thus they call it a rabbit gum, a hollow gum tree. Then they started making them out of wood. But we would put a piece of apple in there and let this down, and when the rabbit goes in, it'll trap him. We have a corn crib and a smokehouse. That corn crib did come from Pickens County on the old Anderson farm under Tater Mountain. This is the Atwood Robertson cabin, and we are on the old Georgia Road. This road was the old wagon road and stagecoach road to Georgia. This cabin was just down this road underneath a two-story house. And we found it, we saw the two-story falling away, and that was the beginning of this settlement. There was nothing here, and we started with this cabin. We moved it totally volunteer. Our historical society took it down log by log. We marked each log beforehand and then put it back up. It took us about 6 years all total to do it. We have furnished it exactly as it would have been in 1790. And it's just been a labor of love. We did the mud chinking, our fingerprints are in it, and we have thoroughly enjoyed doing this and collecting and now sharing it with others. We love doing tours and preserving the past. That's our purpose, is to preserve the past so that we know who we are. This is the interior of the Atwood Robertson cabin. John Robertson came down from Virginia with his family, and he and Mr. Atwood built this house for John's daughter Lucy, who married John Atwood. This was just down the road on Georgia Road, and we're so happy to have preserved this cabin. It's a 1.5-story Scotch-Irish with the front door and back door straight through, mud chinking. We actually cook in the fireplace. We have collected items, we have made items, we have ordered items to be as authentic as we can to the late 1700s. Today we're having bluegrass music on the porch. Can you get the steps? I should have those windows open upstairs. I tell them I'm going to turn on the light. I go up and open the windows. We made those candles that are hanging from the ceiling. And we churn butter, and we have tours. We have children come through and learn what it was like 200 years ago. This is beautyberry. It's a wild plant that grows out wild, and the birds usually plant it. They planted one in my yard. It's beautiful in the fall, beautyberry. This is Harold Clayton. He has helped us organize, he has organized the Owings Music Hall along with Gary and Norm Garland and others. And we have music every Saturday night and Friday night, bluegrass and gospel. And they've all come to play for us today. And we so appreciate Harold and every one of them, all the musicians. It just really enriches all our lives. So thank you so much. There'll be different groups will play all day today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're going to film everything.
Over town that you've been seen out running around. I know that I should leave, but then I just can't go. You win again. The heart of mine could never see what everybody knew but me. That trusting you was my great sin. What can I do? You win again.
Get that lady.
I'm sorry for your victim now. Send his head like mine will bow.
Pig behind her.
He'll give his all, but no in vain. And someday say you'll live again. That heart of mine could never see what everybody knew but me. That you was my great friend. What can I do? You win again. What can I do?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, we wouldn't have missed it.
This is a blockhouse. It came from over on the Seneca River, actually across from Hopewell Treaty, up on a hill on the Oconee side. Eugene Curry's family gave it to us. The Lowry family had owned it, and it had been used as a barn, and it was coming down, so they gave it to us and we moved it here. We are thrilled to have this piece of history, and we use it to show pre-revolutionary and revolutionary era. We're inside the blockhouse now, and we have some of the Musgrove Mill militia ladies over there. You see it has the stairs up. There are 2 lofts. We believe one loft was for the ladies, the next loft for the men. They would come here for safety. If there was an Indian uprising, they would come to the blockhouse. All the people would come from their cabins to be safe. And then later on from the Tories, they would come here for safety. And the men would be able to shoot down from the upper level. We're on the east side of the blockhouse, and these logs, you can see the Roman numerals where they marked them 200 years ago as they were putting it together, or 250, so that they could put them in the right order. We have used as much of the old material as we could. We did have to replace some wood, but we're very thankful to have this, this blockhouse. This is one of the fruit trees. We have started here the Limehouse Gardens in memory of Sarah Alice Limehouse, Sarah Jane's mother. And Sarah Jane has worked tirelessly planting all kinds of beautiful plants that Sarah Alice loved. All right, now we're here with the SAR and preserving the American Revolution. We have Mark Anthony, who is with the South Carolina SAR. Tell us your position.
I'm the Senior Vice President.
Senior Vice President. David Ruhr has started the magazine, The American Revolution.
I'm with
Wonderful magazine.
for preserving historic sites throughout South Carolina and the Southeast. And it's the only magazine on the American Revolution in the country.
We appreciate what you're doing. Tell me your name again, Jack.
I'm Jack Parker, author of Parker's Guide to the Revolutionary War in South Carolina.
Parker's Guide to the Revolutionary War in South Carolina. Wonderful book.
It's the only comprehensive site that's got all the sites.
Wonderful.
Over 400.
Wonderful. So we are so thankful for the SAR. They do tremendous work. I encourage you to join.
But you follow how that'll work? So they're looking for rain. But I welcome you to join me on Thursday. The calming survey.
This is our garden, and also our corn crib, and on over our smokehouse.
This is an observation hive we set up. It's a fully functioning hive. We have a queen. She's on the back side today, so we won't be able to see her. But we're able to see how the inside of a hive looks and the bees work with some capped brood here and some open honey. We also have a teaching hive that can show you prints of how the inside of the hive looks and the different things, eggs and brood, and queen cells, and different pests and disease problems that you have.
We appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
People today don't know about getting sweetener from the bees.
Yeah.
Give us your name.
Henry Campbell.
Henry Campbell.
And we live right here in Graycourt.
He does, right at the Big Knob, which was actually Rayburn Mountain, and on Sawmill Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we have two mountains here, the Little Knob and Big Knob, and the Big Knob was Rayburn Mountain, and the Little Knob was Warrior Mountain. Huh? One photographer noticed that in this beehive reflection, the glass is the flag, and that's very appropriate because today is 9/11, and we do want to remember all those who lost their lives, and especially our soldiers and our patriots and those who have fought for this country. We're so thankful for God, home, and country, and we really want to remember them and pray for them. This is the blacksmith shop. We moved it over here from the Barnett family's farm, and we moved it log by log, put it up, volunteer, all our historical society members. And we have inside the old blacksmith tools, the anvil and the various other things. Many of the farms here just had a small brick forge to do their work. We also have an art show on one side, and we have a blacksmith over here. We'll speak to him. Mr. Harper, we wanted to get you on video.
Well, then I need to be making something.
We're so glad to have Mr. Harper come. He comes every year. He's our blacksmith, and we're so thankful for him to come.
Well, I appreciate it. I enjoy coming. People are very nice here.
Okay.
And, okay. Well,
we'll get y'all in a few minutes. We're making the rounds.
Oh yeah, well I'm trying to look and see everything. Y'all done a fantastic job.
in the fire. I'm burning coal, whereas in the 18th century in South Carolina they would have burned charcoal because there wasn't any coal deposits in South Carolina. Now, the coal turns into coke, and that then burns very hot. Now I can get probably around 3,000 degrees with using coke, which I make like that in the fire. But iron catches on fire and burns up about 2,600 degrees. Do here is I've flattened out the end and marked it and split it. I'm going to make a fork out of that, where that I can use it to cook a piece of meat over a campfire. I call them squirrel cookers, but there's a lot more Polish sausage and hot dogs cooked on my squirrel cookers than there are squirrels. I'm going back to the anvil here. I split the end of that, and I'm going to make it into a fork. The blacksmith, traditionally the blacksmith made everyone's tools. All the samples of tools out there, the axe, the carpenter's hammer, the hinge, the door latch. This is an auger. All these are things that I made to duplicate things that like they made in the 18th century. That's a hay hook for hay bales, a little piece of chain. And this funny looking knife and saw I made for a man called a surgeon. That's an amputation set to take off legs. You don't get many licks before before it's cooled off enough to put it back in the fire. When iron is hot, it's soft, sort of like modeling clay, not quite that soft. But you have to work it hot. So as soon as it cools off, it's back hard as iron again.
That's why they say strike while the iron is hot.
That's right. When I was learning to weld, I complained that my welds didn't stick. And the instructor said, watch me. He says, you know, you got it to just the right temperature. You put the right amount of flux on. After you put the flux on, you got it back to the right temperature. And then you took it out and looked around for your hammer. It must have taken you a second or two. The iron was already cold. And I found out that you don't dawdle when you're welding. The forge I'm using is not an 18th century forge. An 18th century forge would have been made out of mud and brick, mud and stone or brick, and they'd have used a big bellows, maybe 5 or 6 feet long, to provide the air for it. This forge like this was developed in the 19th century, and by the late 19th century, Sears Roebuck was selling a forge like that with attached blower as a kit. They were the bellows with attached. The forge with attached blower, an anvil, a vise, a pair of tongs, and a hammer was a kit that Sears Roebuck sold for about $25. Now, before you think how cheap that was, consider the farmer earned about $300 a year. You can still buy a pretty good outfit for a month's pay. A late 18th century diary I read said this morning the blacksmith was diary, said this morning the carpenter came to work on my house, but he forgot his hammer. So the first thing I had to do was make him a hammer. These old diaries are a lot of fun. I telling a few minutes ago about blacksmith punching holes. When you're punching holes, you use a little flat-ended punch, and you punch from one side like this hinge. You punch from one side, and then you punch from the other side, and you punch out a little thin disc of metal. And that disc is called a biscuit, and it's a hot biscuit. And the diary said, this morning we went to the blacksmith shop. The blacksmith was punching holes. A barefoot youth stepped on one of the biscuits, and the calluses on his feet were so thick we smelled it before he felt it. Blacksmiths traditionally would teach their children to become blacksmiths, their sons. But you know, that son's going to grow up, and he's going to move away, and then they still need a helper, and so they would take somebody else's kid as an apprentice to teach him blacksmithing. Now you like to get somebody 12, 13 years old, because according to law, he was your apprentice. You owned him until he was 21 years old, at which time you would give him all the tools he needed to be a blacksmith. Now, the blacksmith was obligated by law to feed him and clothe him, and at the end of his apprenticeship, to give him all the tools he needed to be a blacksmith, which meant that he had to buy him an anvil. Everything else he made. And usually the boy would have made his own tools as he was being taught over the course of his apprenticeship. Now, because there was a demand, particularly on the frontier, for craftsmen, these apprentices were apt to run off. And what they did to keep them from running off was there were some things they wouldn't teach them until they were just ready to finish.
Well, Mr. Harper, thank you so much.
Well,
we have loved learning.
We're just about to, I'm about to finish that hook.
Okay.
It'll take just a second to do that. This is a little more than you wanted to see. But,
and there's your fork. Wonderful.
There's the fork.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been great. This is Jerry Alexander. He published the Pickens Sentinel and the Liberty paper for years, right?
Pickens Sentinel,
Pickens
that's right.
Sentinel.
Yeah.
And he is a historian from way back in Pickens County. He's written a number of books, and he's brought a liquor still today, and he has a book about the old moonshiners. You want to tell us a little bit?
Well, it's called Where Have All the Moonshiners Gone? And of course they've all gone somewhere, but there might still be some moonshiners around. But this book came out about 4 years ago now and does extremely well. A lot of people interested in moonshining and the subject of moonshining, and we're just glad that it's been accepted like it has.
And then he has this book on the Kiowa. Blood Red runs the sacred Kiowa. It's about the Cherokee War against the British in the Carolinas. And then he has one, Payday to Payday, on the Mill Village, and that's a great book. I've read that one. He does cartoons too. His books are full of his own drawings if he doesn't have a photograph.
Yeah, that comes in handy, you know, create your own illustration. But there was a way of life gone forever in the textile industry in this area. The textile industry basically came into Upper South Carolina sometime in the late 1800s and lasted about 60 or 70 years in a big way. Now, still in a small way, there's still textile jobs, but nowhere near what we had at one time.
Well, we appreciate you bringing that still. People don't see that anymore.
This is basically an old style liquor still. It's called a bell style from this shape that it's in. But to fire, the heat, it comes down from in the bottom and it heats up the whiskey or the mash and converts it into steam. And from there the steam runs down this pipe into a condenser, which is filled with cold water, and it condenses that steam back into liquid. It comes out here, and this is what we call the worm, and this would be the finished product. Now this is about 180 proof when it comes out of the still and has to be cut. And the different moonshiners cut it with water to make it more suit them to how they want it to drink. It can be cut to 80 proof or something like that for drinking purposes.
And I learned if you're walking through the woods and you see old barrels that have axe marks in them, that used to be an old steel.
That's right. Usually, a lot of people are developing rural land now, and they'll have their people who are clearing the land run across a bunch of old barrels that's been beat up and cut up. That's usually the site of a former still.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
All right, we're here with Chief Gene Norris of the Cherokee Lower Eastern Band.
Lower Eastern Cherokee Nation, South Carolina.
Lower Eastern Cherokee Nation, South Carolina. And they are here in Lawrence County, right over on Warrior Creek.
Warrior Creek Church Road.
And we all work together, and they always lead our parade because they were here first.
Thank you.
And they're going to drum some. Would you like to say anything about your group before they do that?
We're state recognized. We're working on 600 member numbers right now. You can go to our website, find out about us. We have tribal land down on Warrior Creek Church Road, and we have a craft store, museum, and a library. And it's getting ready to rain, so we better hurry up and do this drum because we're going to have to take it in.
Okay. This is Lauren Cook. She was the chauffeur for our Dr. Rembert Owings. He was going to be our parade marshal today. He is 103 years old. He's our oldest living Owings cousin. The Owings family came here in 1757 from Owings Mill, Maryland, and she's also an Owings descendant. Thank you, Lauren. Here we have the war between the states. This is Jack Marler.
Here we are shooting. Somebody said, what are you doing shooting that Russian tank? If you don't like Yankee socialists, you won't like Russian socialists. Same thing.
Jack, we're videotaping everything over here today.
Okay.
This is Jack Marler, and he's brought his cannon. You tell him anything you'd like to tell him.
This is a 3-inch ordnance rifle, as used in war between the states by both North and South, or sometimes referred to as the war between the Americans and the Yankees. but it fired a 10-pound projectile. I've got some examples of those over there, some originals and some reproductions. And a lot of people want to know just how big a fire would it shoot. Well, that gives you a little inclination right there of how much firepower you put out. And we also take this thing and we shoot up trucks at 1,000 yards sometimes. Here's one we shot out of water 700 yards, a ship down in Gulf of Mexico, Cedar Key, Florida. So we don't just make noise, we do this and put on the big 1812 overture with the Greenville Symphony Orchestra. I'll bring 11 of those things in to do that one. That's a major deal every July the 4th. And they like us in the South because we're the only ones who are able to do precise firing because we memorize the scoring of all of Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture. So we can pop that thing in there just in time. And Maestro Chief Joe thinks there's nothing like the sons like a and he just can't quite sit in. And they said, Jack, they would get your name, Jack Mahler, right, if you would change your name to Mahlerovsky.
Well, thank you, Jack. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Charlie, we met up in 1973. We built a lot of guns together back in the 70s and into the 80s.
That was Charlie Crenshaw?
Charlie Crenshaw of Greenville, who passed away just 5 years ago. And he donated his big bronze Napoleon, weighs 1,250 pounds, to the Confederate Museum in Greenville, and it's out front, and you can go see it. And it's on the carriage and everything. You can go right out there and see it. But it's so big and so heavy, I don't think anybody's going to pull that one, steal it off. But this 3-inch gun there, we built part of that there. This is typical of the guns that were used in War between the states. About 40% of the guns in the War between the states were 3-inch rifles. It was one of the more preferred guns. The other 45% of the guns were 12-pounder Napoleons, like Charlie has, and you can see in Greenville. That was the other preferred gun. It was a smooth bore, wouldn't fire but about a mile. This can shoot 2.5 miles. A lot more accuracy. Problem of it is, you don't need that much accuracy. You can't see that far. You don't have that many open fields. So, but it does have more, a little bit more firepower. This gun right here, they incorporated a lot of modern techniques to this. It has quick change wheels on the things. Notice it does not have a nut to hold the wheel on. You've got a spring-loaded linch pin. And you can pull that linch pin off from the washer. And then another thing the artillery team would do is they would practice changing wheels. So just as you would go through the motions of loading and firing the guns and the timing of the shells and the timing of the fuses, you would also practice working on your piece and disassembling. You never know when you were going to take a round, a hit in the wheel. If the wheel got hit and was destroyed, then naturally you're not going anywhere. If the axle wasn't broken, carrying on the caisson, you had a spare wheel. So you had a spare tire for all of it, and it would interchange between your limbers with ammunition boxes and all your gun carriages, and they would all interchange. So you're ready to go with this thing. Notice it has a...
How much powder did you put in
this thing fired a pound of powder every time. It never varied. It always has 1 pound of powder, and a 10-pound projectile. I can show you some projectiles. This represents the 4 types of projectiles that would be in every ammunition chest. This is a solid shot. As the name implies, it's solid and it batters fortifications and shoots long range. This is a case shot shrapnel. A case shot shrapnel has small balls inside of it, and when it would explode, you got the shell fragments as well as the balls going through the air as anti-personnel. It always had a timed fuse. This and the shell are your 2 most common things that they would have. Shell, as the name implies, is nothing but a shell with powder in it. And all that powder would do 2 things: blow things up, catch things on fire. And they would often have time fuses. Occasionally, they would have a percussion fuse. This is a percussion fuse made from the Confederate Patent Office. We had a patent for this. And the way it worked, they would put the powder bag down, a pound of powder, put the projectile down on top of it. Just before cannoneer number 2 would insert it in the muzzle, he'd pull that safety pin. Goes through there. When it gets to its target, you hear that plunger slam forward, and that would explode. This was a little bit of Southern ingenuity. These things worked extremely well. It's a very expensive to manufacture. You had a lot of those. One thing you did not have much of in the ammunition chest was called a canister. This superseded grape shot, which was a popular thing back in 1700s, 1600s, and they still had a lot around, but they didn't make much of it. They went into canister. As you can see in this little, these are reproductions here. You still see the balls inside of it, and this would go into the barrel, turn a cannon into a super sawed-off shotgun. Why did they not carry much of this? This is for close-in, short-range work. This is only good for 350 yards because it's such small balls. And it relegates your long-range, heavy-duty, high-performance weapon into a short-range piece. And ideally, in the theories of war, what they were taught at West Point is you always husband your artillery. You bring them up to do long-range destructive work to prevent them ever getting to you, to destroy whatever's going to come about. And that's what they were used for. However, if we were up on this hill right here and we were firing at the Yankees and over there at Owings or somewhere, way down the road, but if we were up on a clearing, what happened if somebody or some cavalry or something come out of the woods close in on you? You can't turn your fuses, your shells in on anything close to you. The shortest fuse you got is a second, and that's going to put it out 300 yards. But you don't want anything short. If you did, those fuses, those fragments could blow back on your own troops. So you don't have anything with a very short fuse on it, but you do have this. And this would turn a cannon into that super sawed-off shotgun effect, which would literally make mincemeat out of me, and it was a horrible, terrible thing. It was just
Tell me about the inside of those cannonballs there.
Okay.
Between the northern and the southern.
Cast iron, you never know. This is, by the way, is an original 3-inch shell. This is a Yankee dud. It swallowed its fuse. It had a percussion fuse. You can still see the plunger inside of it. You can see where it took the rifling very well. That's a 3-inch 10-pounder. Now, what you have here, this is a fragment that came from Charleston, where the Yankees were throwing these heavy shells to kill women and children from 63 on in the siege of Charleston, 5 miles away on Morris Island. Those big guns were cocked up at nearly 36 degrees to shoot that far. This is where their fuse would go. Powder cavity is here, but you never know how cast iron's going to break. Big problem. Southerners and Southern ingenuity, we came up with this. This is a 12-pounder shell unfired. Here's where your fuse would go. Here's your powder cavity. And this, if you notice, it's not smooth like it is in here, equidistant around the circumference and perimeter. What the Americans did, that's Confederacy, Confederate Americans, what we came up with, we cast the interior into a polygon, a polyhedral interior, because Physics 101 says stress runs to a point. Notice how well these exploded. And you get 12 of these out of every 12-pound projectile. And of course they made interiors like this for other caliber guns. But that right there, if it got a hold of you, if it didn't kill you, at least it'd wound you real bad, and they'd send you to the Yankee hospital. And you know who's there? Dr. Gangrene. And Dr. Gangrene's got these sponges, and he spreads disease to everybody, and they all die in a few days.
Thank you, Jack. Wonderful. We're inside the church, Ora Old Fields Presbyterian Church, and we have the Sacred Harp Singers. They're here from several states doing shape note singing. This church was 5 miles from here on Ora Road, and we moved it here to have a church. We have Thanksgiving service in here, and we have camp meetings, we have tours.
Here somewhere.
This music is in shapes, square, circle, triangle, and they know the exact note to sing for that shape. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. And they're singing from the Sacred Harp hymnal. People from most of our states have shape note singings, and they do books of minutes from all the different states. They take turns directing, and they are keeping the time with their hand. Okay, this is the book, and you see the notes are in shapes, circles, squares, triangles, and they sing first the fa, sol, la, then they sing the words. This is the Sacred Harp, and if you can see those shapes there. They normally group in squares, and they have the bass on one side, the tenor on one side, the lead, and the alto. They helped us get started. They've gone on.